Ndị be anyị ngwadalụ dị nnenu anyị si ka ụbọchị nkịta mana na anyị na mma anyị si ka nkonye chiri ya zerụkwa dịka o si dị ya bụ Eastern News 24 ka anyị si wee na-ewetara ya bụ ozi nje gị n'ugbu a gbasịta maka ya bụ ife na-eme na Eastern Region and the entire nation. Please pay attention to this update anyị ji maka ya wee bịa n'iru akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị uruchi nkịta. Alright, ozi ewetara unu bụ according to the BIAFRA activist wetara ya bụ ozi as he quote Nnamdi Kanu amalgamation part to referendum, a legal option for self-determination under UN Charter. Hear the news in details. Alright, if I jimakia we bia niru akwụkwọ according to the BIAFRA activist wetara ya bụ ozi mmalapụ kun ga ya bụ nnukwu update o jimakia we bia niru akwụkwọ ya bụ one of the great activists I will. So the key ga ya bi fekabaru kile ya at this point an option over to you, sir.
Agu, and he wrote, I keep asking if secession is not included in our constitution. What of the 100-year option of Nigeria's separation in the amalgamation treaty signed by the British government? That is a wonderful question, and that is going to form the basis of today's discussion, because the amalgamation, of course, as you know, was a 100-year, call it a contract, call it an agreement, or whatever you want to call it, or call it a document, that was prepared when the merging of the North and South happened. It was done for a purpose, and of course, the people that did it had a specific amount of time that they planned to amalgamate these two sides for. That was an initial 100 years. And I'm sure during these 100 years, they never envisaged that one day Nigeria may have their independence before then. But let's go on. The question that the person asked was clearly trying to know if amalgamation itself can lead to self-determination, thereby having a referendum when the 100 years has expired and the countries, of course, don't want to continue on that path and decide to forge a new path for their respective countries. In this aspect, Biafra nation. Is this amalgamation expiration also a criteria for referendum in the UN Charter or the Nigerian law or anywhere necessary? That is what is trying to know, and that is what we are talking about today. So grab your popcorn, sit down and relax as we are about to understand the concept of amalgamation, and of course within the context of Nigeria, and Nigeria having experienced amalgamation and expired amalgamation, why we may be still in this contraption now, and why Biafra has not yet used that part to escape from this unholy union. Hold on and I'll take you through this particular mind-blowing topic. Let's go. So I'll read. What was the 1914 amalgamation? The 1914 amalgamation was the administrative unification, mark the word administrative, unification of the Northern Protectorate, the Southern Protectorate, and Lagos Colony. Because you are aware that Lagos was a colony of its own, because Lagos was not part of Southwest and has never been. That particular clause showed you that Lagos was brought into the amalgamation as a colony of its own, not as part of the South. Do you understand? Lagos was different. It had nothing to do with the Yorubas, because even as at then, the Yorubas were not even in Lagos as at that time. So that word that Lagos is a no man's land is very, very correct. But that's for another day. Let's keep on going. Under British colonial rule, it was enacted by Lord Frederick Lugard without the consent of indigenous ethnic groups like the Igbo, the Yoruba, and the Hausa. The key word is without the consent. It was done without the consent of the indigenous people of Nigeria. This was an autocracy. It was the regime of the military of the British. They did not care about people that were in Nigeria. They just signed documents. They just did it. Whatever they wanted to do, they did it because they owned Nigeria after the Berlin Conference of the 1800s. That was what Britain did. So this amalgamation was not the signing of documents between the tribes. It was just documents signed by the colonial master himself. Hold that in your hand because it's going to lead us to a particular place. Let's keep on going. So the amalgamation officially expired in 2014, and that was under Jonathan's regime. And after the amalgamation expired, many people were started to argue that was this 100 years actually stated in the 1914 resolution or declaration? Some people said it was not, some said it was. But actually, that 100 years was specifically stated because an amalgamation is not a union. It is just the coming together for administrative purposes. Administrative purposes, and it always has a timeline. Any administration has a timeline. So that is exactly the truth. It was for 100 years and it had an expiring date. But it was never signed by Nigerian indigenous leaders. Therefore, listen, the expiration of it is more symbolic or political, not legally binding. Do you understand? So let's go on. But can the expiration justify Biafra's self-determination? This is the part I want you to listen. Yes, self-determination is recognized by international law. You understand? Whether it is binding in the 1940 Constitution or not, whether the tribes agreed or not, whether it was a Britain agenda or not, so long as at the expiration of the 100 years, it's going to lead to self-determination, that the countries can come together and say, these documents that Britain signed, we don't like it. Can we negotiate our future? It is backed by UN law because UN law is for anything self-determination of a people. They are for it 100%. Let's go on. According to United Nations Charter and other treaties, self-determination is a legitimate right of a people. So UN Charter Article 12 calls for respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of people. The ICCPR and ICESCR, Common Article 1, says, all people have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status. UNGA Resolution 1514-1960 recognizes the rights of colonized peoples of self-determination and decolonization. Now, listen to the big question here. Does amalgamation expiration, the expiration of amalgamation, does it automatically lead to independence? The answer is no. And here is why. There is no legal status in Nigerian or international law that says that after it expires, that the nations will go their separate way. There is no legal basis for that as at today. Also, the UN law on self-determination requires genuine oppression, colonization, or lack of representation. That is the part we are taking, the normal self-determination, part, which is the UN Charter, not amalgamation, because amalgamation may be morally, we can use it morally as a way to escape, yes. Morally, it is a ground. But legally, mark it, legally, it doesn't have backing like referendum. It doesn't have backing like a referendum. So get it correct there, because the UN requires genuine oppression claims, like we said yesterday, colonization or lack of representation and other human rights abuses before it can, grant that right for self-determination referendum. Not because you can come and say to the UN that amalgamation has expired, therefore we want to go. The UN doesn't have those laws. And of course, the UN work with laws. So it's no use of going to the UN to tell the UN, oh, we are Biafrans, Nigeria has expired, we want self-determination. They won't listen to us. I'm saying this because we need to go equipped, not to go there and disgrace ourselves or just, fall our hand anyhow. We need to go with the right tools, with the right equipment. Let's go on. Referendum is a legal, peaceful, and internationally acceptable path. So even if people argue that 1914 expired in 2014, the international community sees Nigeria as a sovereign entity today. Any exit must follow legal or constitutional means, which is the path we are following, not amalgamation claims. We are following self-determination through referendum claims, because that is the one that is backed by UN law and the one that will not just throw our file away from the table. So I'm doing this video of course I hope you're following me till this moment, so that we will clear this air and we don't give ourselves false hopes and go to start fighting for a cause that at the end of the day we might be sent back with our tail between our legs. Let us go the proper way, because we have evidence for the proper way very well. Amalgamation was not signed by us. It was not signed between the tribes of Nigeria. And as you know, the Britain itself has even left the country long time ago. Let's go on. What then is referendum? Since we've known much about the amalgamation and if it can be used or not, let us also explore referendum itself. A referendum is a democratic vote where people choose between staying or leaving a country. Key point to note is that it must be authorized by the government or constitution. It must be supervised by a neutral electoral body. And 3, it must be observed by international bodies, example, the UN, the AU, and the ECOWAS. I want to read this point again for some people who came to my comment section and were saying that they have already done referendum and I should, some insulted me that they already declared Biafra, and so I want this part to sink. I will say it again for them to give me evidence of that referendum that they did in Biafra land. Did the referendum that you people did it have the African Union or the AU, the UN, and the ECOWAS? Were they represented in the referendum? I'm asking you, because even a normal Nigerian election has international observers before it can be ascertained credible. Not to talk of referendum, because referendum is granted by the UN itself, not by the local bodies, not by Biafra. Biafra are not the one that will conduct referendum. It is the UN that will conduct a referendum, and they will come and monitor it in that country. So lastly, I want to ask again, did the UN come? Did the US come? Did the AU come? Did the ECOWAS come? If these people did not come, whatever you did was not a referendum and does not represent the opinions of majority of Biafrans. It was just done for yourselves and for yourselves alone. Stop saying that, because I didn't want to talk about this, but stop saying it. It sounds somehow in the ears of people that you can come and say that Biafra has already done a referendum and that I should keep quiet. I don't know what I'm saying. It's funny. I don't want to use the kind of negative word maybe to you, but I'm just telling you that whoever those people writing those things, stop doing it, because it doesn't sound intelligent for the kind of people that we are. Biafrans, we are smart people. We are intelligent. We are focused. We are engineered for great things. So the words we say must be in due diligence for people listening to us know that we are very sound like the Jews. So don't go about saying that thing. We all want the same Biafra, but we will not lie about it. We will not deceive people about it. We will not deceive even ourselves about having a referendum when we have not even started, when we have not got to that stage yet. But we'll get to that stage. But for now, we have not gotten there yet. We are getting there. And I also want to ask, was it supervised by a neutral electoral body? Because as you are aware, Biafrans cannot hold the referendum for themselves. They cannot be the judge and the jury for the referendum. There must be an independent electoral body that will conduct it for us. It's not us that will do it for ourselves, because it's an international body. We are going to be a member of the international community, and they are the ones that will conduct it. Because we say we want it, we cannot come and judge our case by ourselves. They will not recognize it all. So I'm asking you again for the second one. Did You invite an international body, neutral body, that supervise that referendum you say you did on Biafra land. I don't want to really talk deep, because arguing with some people, it's just like, if you know the kind of time I take to do my research, if you know, you will not come to my conversation and you will be asking me to tell you this or tell you that. So, but thank God that there are only a few of them who are doing those things, and I'm glad that I use this opportunity to clear that air, so that they might learn a cue and go back to those people who are lying to them that they have done the referendum. Go back to them and say that they should come for a debate with me. I bet you they will not even come, because they know what they are doing and they know why they are spreading that lies to all of you. But I advise you, stop it, stop swallowing those lies, because there are criteria for a referendum, and that thing that happened was never, or even is not even qualified to be a local election. Let me go on. Has Nigeria allowed any referendum for Biafra? No. The Nigerian Constitution 1999 doesn't provide for secession or referendum for independence. In fact, Section 2, Section 1 says that Nigeria is one indivisible sovereign nation. Section 15, Section 4 says it promotes national integration and discourages discrimination along tribal lines. The only way for Biafra to go is to pursue international sympathy under self-determination laws and not looking for referendum. Because I will also let you know that, going by what I just read now, that Section 2, Section 1 of Nigerian Constitution says that Nigeria is one indivisible sovereign nation. That clause alone has put an end to the amalgamation, because this one now was written by Nigerians themselves for Nigeria. That means the Igbos signed it, that Nigeria is one indivisible nation. The Hausa signed it, that Nigeria is one. The Yoruba signed it, that Nigeria is one. And then the way they signed it, they did not plan to divide Nigeria. So yes, the amalgamation was going on when the British left, and Nigeria took over and did a constitution and wrote in the constitution that Nigeria will be an undivided union. Whereas even the amalgamation stated that in 100 years' time, Nigeria will divide. But our own leaders, in their senselessness, with all due respect, thought they were wise and felt that, no, this thing that Biafra did, this thing that Lord Lugard did, he used sellotape. Let us use super glue and glue it. That puts an end to any division via amalgamation or via referendum, if it was going to be easy locally. So locally, we don't have the law that we should have had, which I blame Azikiwe for that, because he was carried away by the love for one Nigeria and forgot to insert that clause, did not want to insert that clause. Even when Awolowo was pressing for that clause to be inserted, and Ahmadu Bello was pressing, Azikiwe refused. And now look at what is causing us. Now we are at the mercy of United Nations. We just have to be equipped enough with the evidences, like I have told you yesterday, the evidences that they need. You know, the criteria that they need to step in and grant referendum to us. And of course, you know, Biafra has already succeeded in passing those tests. That is all we need. We don't need any other arguments. It's just for us to start moving straight to the UN with the bodies already on ground that will pursue this cause to the end, than just staying there and waiting for a miracle. A miracle will never give us Biafra, but hard work and evidence will give us Biafra. Let's keep on working. Let's keep on working. But how can Biafra use amalgamation symbol to justify a legal exit? Now, there are constitutional reforms. We can push for inclusion of referendum in Nigeria's constitution. That is a wonderful, that would be wonderful if our politicians are also working with us. The same mindset, the same understanding. If our politicians also want the same thing, this will be possible. But where they are doing their own and we're doing our own, we don't meet. They are the ones in the House of Assembly. They are the ones in the Senate. They are the ones in the government. They are the ones that can fight for this referendum to be put in the law. Example of such is Scotland's referendum that was approved by the UK Parliament. It happened in Scotland, in England. Another one is the UN petition, that you need to prove that there is oppression, marginalization, or genocide. Then you apply under UN Decolonization Committee. Mark it, UN Decolonization Committee, or ICJ, for advisory opinion. Example is South Sudan, that eventually got a referendum after decades of conflict and international pressure. So there are challenges for basing, self-determination on amalgamation. There are challenges, and that is why we cannot use it. It has lots of challenges because there is no legal treaty between the Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, North and South. There was no agreement. We did not sign any documents. Amalgamation wasn't a pact with signatories. It did not have signatories. It was just declared. Whatever is not backed by a signatory is not backed by law, and we might find it difficult for the UN to approve it with that part. So in conclusion, for amalgamation as a pathway to self-determination, I conclude by saying this: can amalgamation expiry justify or lead to BIAFRA independence? No, legally not, but symbolically it strengthens the emotional argument for a new beginning, for real world independence. Referendum, on the other hand, is the real legal part. Biafra must internationalize this struggle, clean and clear. So it's obvious that amalgamation can't just be symbolic to point out when we are arguing for our referendum that CEO, even the Nigeria of a country has expired, sir. 100 years has passed. That might just be an argument. You might bring it under as an argument, not that it's going to be a basis, because it has no legal backing. Just like every court case, there's always the argument you make when stating your case. So the main case itself is the human rights abuse, the preparation that BIAFRA has made, and the disenfranchisement, the violence, the genocides, the killings, and the abuse that has been going on, even the segregation in Nigeria on the Igbos. That is the main argument. And the evidences we present for this, these are the arguments that we present to the UN. Then we can argue and also say that yes, we have also expired as a country. Don't you think this should end? That is going to be a better way forward. So amalgamation is not a part legally, but morally may be a part. Referendum is the part for self-determination and freedom as a nation, and that is what we will stick with. I hope I have done a wonderful expose and clarity on this part, so that we know what to do, we know where our fight is, and we know where we put all our energy in, and whatever have in our mind and we think, we let it go and put fresh things in our mind. Always, I want to see what you have in the comment section, because it helps and guides my also thoughts. I don't know it all, but definitely I promise you to always do my research as usual and give people bumper packages, fact checked, without any error at all, because as you know, we always do it the right way. No channel does it better, I assure you. So stick here. Always make sure you turn on notification. Click on that bell that says all, select all, to make sure you get all notifications whenever we drop a video. YouTube will alert you, even if you are sleeping, or even if you are even in your deep dream. To all my supporters around the world, I greet you all watching me from all the countries of the universe.
Ndị ba ngwadalo li nenu dikun siwe ge ya bife wetelu n'ụbọchị uruchi nketa. Anyị ga-anapụ nkun riyati ya gbasata maka ebe ife ndị a niile ụmụnna wetela anyị. Gwa ifu nche n'udo nke unu. Ngwanụ ka emesịa n'ụmụnne m.